everyone, I've decided it's time I started on my AliExpress doll kit. I'm going to give it a paint, and I've been asked by a few people to show how I do it. Not that I'm the best at it, I've only ever done one full repaint before. So it's the Levi kit, but it's from AliExpress. I'm going to do the detailing first, which is all the little creases, things like this on his head. You can see his skull, look how this is the shape of a baby's skull when it's born. There's a soft spot there and everything, look. So I'm going to do the detailing first, so all the little creases. And so to do that, I'm going to be using maroon. It's acrylic paint and it's air dry, so it's just air dry paint. I'm going to be using a bit of maroon, which is a little bit too dark, so I will add another colour in there with it. I'm going to put it in this jar so that any that I've got left over can be saved. So there's that. I'm going to try a little bit of white in it and we'll see how we go. It really is trial and error. There's no scientific method to how I do it anyway. I'm going to put in a little bit of a blending medium, just a little tiny bit of that. And I'm also going to put in some acrylic binder, which will help it to stick to the kit. Like I say, I'm no expert, don't take my word for it. But this is how I do it. Been asked to show how I do it, so that's what I'm doing. For this, I use a very, very fine brush, and I have some that I have cut down myself to literally just a few strands. I think I'm going to use this one. Yeah, I'm going to use that one. Let's give this a bit of a mix up and see what we think to the colour. Mix, 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 mix. That's the order of the day, so that's what I'm doing. I think I may put a tiny bit of water in there as well to thin it out a bit. I may have put too much in there. Yeah, that's not too bad at all. It's more of a wash than a thick paint. So when I put it on there like that, yeah, it'll be more of a wash. I think I might put a tiny bit of red in there. It's a little bit too pinky coloured, can you see? I'm going to put a tiny bit of red in there as well. My tiny bits are maybe not as tiny as anyone else's. I get a bit carried away. Right. So before I do anything at all, I've washed my kit to make sure all the dust and everything has come off it, and it's all, you know, there's no dust or anything on it. Yeah, I think I'm quite happy with that, I think. So I've mixed up my colour, I'm happy with it now. It's a mixture of maroon, red, white, and then I put a little bit of blue in there as well. It's sort of a case of mixing it until you're happy with it. So the next thing I'm going to do is to paint on all the tiny little lines to give him his detailing, all the little tiny little things. So I'm going to go round and do the whole thing on the hands, the face and the legs. So I've got a little sponge to dab off any excess that I get on in any of the creases. I'm a bit worried that this start on the back of his head, and I've got I usually just have a wet wipe ready, and then if I go wrong I can just wipe it straight off. So I'm going to start on the back of his head to check that it's the right colour, to check that it's not going to be too thick. So I've got a really, really thin brush. I also use this brush for doing the veining with as well. Yeah, quite happy with that. So it's just a case of going round, doing all the detailing. All these little creases is what I do. And I've kept that paint in a jar so that I can use it again, you know, another time for a different doll. So I'll do this bit under his eye. Yeah, that's okay, it's not too dark. And I'm going to do his eyelid there, though I think I will put some eyelashes on him, but I haven't quite decided yet. I'll decide that later. I have got some baby doll eyelashes. I'm going to put some of this inside his nose as well. See, it makes it look a bit more realistic if he's got that colour inside his nose. I may even go back later on and paint inside, you know, inside there again, give it 2 coats instead of 1. And we've got the bits down the side of his nose there. And so basically that's what I'm going to do on all these little creases and things. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go along with my little brush, and I'm not sure whether to do it there or not. Maybe I need to go all the way around like that. Yeah, then we've got don't forget to do the little bit under his chin. Like I say, I'm no expert. I mean, don't take it that I'm an expert and I'm telling you, you know, the hard and fast way of doing it, because I'm not. I'm showing you how I do it. And I only make dolls for myself. I don't make them to sell or for other people. So, you know, I can basically do it how I'm happy with it. So that's what I'm doing with my little Levi. I might put a little bit of it sort of in the deeper bits of his ears, because I will use red for the other bits, but the actual deep bits that are, you see the bits that are shaded, I shall do those in purple, and then I shall do the rest in red. So I'm just doing this is just how I do it, as I say, just the shaded bits in purple. A little bit more on the back here, and that will be his little head done, because I'm not planning on giving him any hair. I want to just highlight the shape of his bones on his head. You can see the bone shape of the shape of the bones on his head. I'm going to do them like this. This is how I'm doing them. I mean, I've got the fontanelle at the top here. Just the shaded areas I'm doing, so you can see that, like, it's shaded just here. There's a shade in there. I'll see. I may wash this off. I may decide I'm not happy with it, but this is what I'm doing for now. Another thing to remember as well is that I will go over. This is going to be gone over as well with mottling and skin colours, purple, red and yellow. I shall go over it with that as well, which will lighten it a little bit, but you'll still sort of see an outline. That's the idea. I don't want it to be really dark, but I do want there to be a little bit of an outline. That's just me, but yeah, so it really shows the shape of his head. So that, I think, is his head done. I shall then put him on a stand to dry, and then I'll continue to do the arms and legs. And once I've done that and it's dry, I'll come back and show you how I do the veining. Okay, so I have Levi back here. This is his head. His detailing has dried. You can see it comes out a lighter colour. So now the next thing I'm going to do is give him some veining. I've got my veining colour here. It's just a watered down blue. This is the colour I like to use. You know, not everybody, people like different colours, but this is the colour I like to use. So what I'm going to do now is just use your artistic, you know, do whatever you want to do. Veining, you can just do the veins anywhere. Have fun with it. Draw them in. If you put them in and you don't like them, take them out again. It's as simple as that. I do branch them off a bit. Things like that. I do like to put a few on the head and especially a few on the face. Little ones down here like that. Like I say, if you decide you don't like them, move them. Simple as that. Yeah. A few little, and I'll do the same on his arms and legs. I'm literally just using my artistic license and just, you can see they go very thin and fade. But they do show up well once you've got your other colours on, like your, when you've got your red, yellow and blue washes on there, they'll show up even more. So I've done my veining on his head how I wanted it to be. Or I might actually put him another one round. I get a bit carried away sometimes, give him a bit too many veins, but I do think when they're balder you can see them better. So I've done that on him, and now I'm going to do his arms and legs, and then I'll come back and show you how I start with the colour washing. Hi everyone, so I'm done with my detailing and my veining on my doll now. The next thing I'm going to do is the colour washes. So how I do it is I start with a red wash, then I do a purple, and then I finish with yellow. So to make my red wash, I'm going to be using this rouge colour. You can use what colour you want. It needs to be very watered down. It needs to be not, you know, you don't want to be seeing bright red on your doll. So I'll put my little bit of red in there. I'll put my little bit of blending medium, just helps it stay wet a bit longer so you can, you know, blend it for longer. And then I also put in my Bindex acrylic binder. This like glues it, it's like a glue. Yeah, just put a little bit of that in. Now I need some water in there. I use bottled water. You're meant to use distilled water, but I just use bottled water. Like I say, these are not babies that I'm going to sell. These are babies I'm keeping for myself. So I'll give that a mix with my mixing brush and see if it's thin enough. I think I might need a bit more water in there. It has to be very, very thin. I'm not sure whether that isn't a little bit too red as well. Maybe I could put a bit of pink in there or something. You have to be happy with your colour. It's too thick at the moment. Let's put a bit more water in. Test it on the side of the bowl, that's what I do anyway. I sort of dab it on and then dab it off, so I think that will be okay. You can see that it's leaving like a pinky tone. I don't think I actually need to make that any lighter. So I'm going to go with that and we'll see. So I'll do the same thing over the entire doll. Also, when I do the red, I do red bits, like inside the ears I'll do a bit more red. I might do the lips red. I might do a bit of red on the cheeks, you know, a bit more red on the cheeks, maybe a little bit on the eyelids. So I'll just sort of do a little bit more extra in places. So I'm going to do the eyelids a bit redder, do that. It is only you can see how it's a very light wash that I'm doing. And then I'm going to do a little bit on the end of the nose, a little bit of red on the end of the nose. You can use I use one of these, which is a makeup wedge, to pat it off again. So once you've got it on, pat it off. So this is just like the extra red that I'm doing. I'm going to do some red on the cheeks. There we go, just a bit of red on the cheeks there. And then I can pat that with my sponge just to sort of spread it out a bit, make the edges not so rigid. And then, because we don't want a sort of a circle on there, do we? We want the edges to be smooth, so we pat it and blend the edges in. So that, you know, this is just the extra bits of red I want. I'm going to do a little bit there, just in the little crease above his lip. I'm going to paint his lips red, or his lip. You can only see one of his lips, the other one's sucked in. So I'm going to paint that red. I'll choose a colour to go on here and paint it afterwards, but for now I'm just going to paint extra red on it. There we are. As I say, you can't actually see the red. You don't want to be able to see, you know, patches of red. Then I'm going to do some inside his ear. So I'm going to do in these bits here, round here. I'm going to go round here. Just because I want that to be a bit of a darker red. So that's done that, and that bit there as well. And then in with my wedge to blend it in a bit. There we are. Happy with that. And then the same on the other ear. So, and as I say, this is just how I do it. This is not the hard and fast way to do it. This is just how I do it. So a little bit of red, basically where the where it's in the shade, I'd say, where it's got a shadow on the ear there. So pop your red in, and then get your makeup sponge or whatever you're going to use. You can even use a dish sponge and just pat that to blend it in a bit. There we go. So there's a little bit more red inside that ear, just in the shaded area. That's where I do it anyway. I think I'm going to go over the cheek again, give it a little bit more red. Blend it in with my makeup wedge. There we go, I'm happy with that. I'm just a little bit more on the end of his nose as well. Blend that in. And then we go on to do the whole colour wash all over his face. So to do that, you get your sponge, paint it in red. So I'm going to use this brush. I'm going to paint my sponge like this. Give it a dab onto the there like that, so it doesn't come out in a thick wodge. Hold him by the base of his neck, and then I'm going to dab this over the whole of the head, the entire head. So dab it on like this. This is how I do it. Remember, you can do it more than once. You can layer it up, you can do it more than once. So once you've done your dabbing and got it all over his little head, some more of this red off here. It's gone a bit dark just there, hasn't it? Spread it all out over his whole head and his whole face, back of his head, top of his head. So I need a bit more paint on my sponge. I'll go back and paint it again. Dab it on there, and then back on with the... Make sure you do the whole head, the ear, behind the ear, back of the head, top of the head, the whole thing. So keep dabbing and blending as you go. If you keep dabbing with the same sponge, you can do that, or you can get your blending sponge and use that to dab it. So I've dabbed it all with that. Now I'm going to get a sponge that has no red on it, this one, and I'm going to just dab over it with that. That'll hopefully give us that mottling effect. I need a bit more behind his ears. You can see there's no red behind his ears, so I'm just going to dab some more in there. And then make sure there's no bits left. I might actually get in there with a brush because it doesn't seem to be going in there properly. So I'm going in there with a brush. Give that a wipe with a wet wipe. There's too much there. And then we'll get in there with my blending wedge and just see, we've got way too much there. Let's get that all off. There we are. I've got all the way behind his ears now. We've got inside his ears. So he's had a good old red layer there he's had. Make sure there's no bits that are you can actually see red on. You shouldn't be able to actually see red on him. You can see his blush in there, that's fine. Wanted this bit here to be lighter, so that's fine. Got a bit of red on the end of his nose. You can see how his veining really starts to look realistic when you start putting the mottling on, can't you? So let's do that. Do with a bit more there, I think. Quite pleased with that. It's quite a nice colour, isn't he? There we are. So that's the red done on the head. So I'll leave that to dry. He's looking good. I'm pleased with him. And so the next thing we'll do is his limbs. So I'll get my brush first and do the bits where I want extra red. So I want some extra red down the side of his foot here and round his heel there. Not on the sole of his foot, just round the edge. And then use your blender to blend that in. Maybe a little bit on his knee. Although quite why he'd need red on his knee, I don't know, he's not been out crawling around, has he? Just where it's pulled, the skin's pulled tighter because his leg's bent maybe. And then, yeah, I think that's enough of extra red on his feet and everything. So then we go in with the sponge again. You can paint it or you can do it like this. I generally tend to do it like this and give it a bit of a dab on your paper. This paper I'm using is a puppy pad. And then we dab the whole of his leg. and his little foot. So I've got my red all dabbed on all over now. And so I can get on with my dabbing off now, my blending or dabbing off as I call it, getting the excess off. See how that veining looks now when you get the other washes on? It really starts to come out well, doesn't it? So let's get that. See how I haven't dabbed much on the bottom of the foot? There we go. There we are. So I'm quite happy with that. Looks all smooth and blended. Pleased with that. So pop that on the rack to dry. And I'll continue to do the other limbs and then I'll come back to you ready for the next wash. Okay, so I'm done with my red wash. Now I'm gonna, here he is with his red wash on. Now I'm gonna move on to the purple wash. So a little bit of purple paint, a little bit of the Bindex acrylic binder, and a couple of spots of blending medium. There we are. And some water. Mix it up with my brush. Make sure you get all these bits out. You don't want any chunks in there. It needs to be smooth. So give it a real good mix. Take your time, make sure you do it properly. Like I say, I'm no expert. This is just how I do it. Let's see if that's going to be light enough. Actually, I might need a bit more water in there, I think. Seems a bit too dark. So yeah, I think that's it. So any places you want to be more purple, you paint in with your brush, like we did with the red. I think I'm going to do a bit on his lips. I don't know what colour I'm going to end up doing his lips really. I'm going to leave the bit in the middle because I want that to look a bit like a blister. So I'm going to leave that bit in the middle. I don't think, maybe a little bit on his eyebrows. Not eyebrows, eyelids. He ain't got any eyebrows yet, has he? Yeah, a little bit on his eyelids, I think. And then pounce that off with you. Yeah, I think I'll mix a different colour for his lips and do them separately. There we are. So when you've done your extra purple with your brush and that, then you go on to the... they say to brush it onto the sponge. I just dip it in normally. I just dip it in, but then I don't mind getting my hands dirty. Squeeze it out, pop it on your pad so you know you haven't got too much on there, and then start pouncing it onto the head. Every time I do this, I put the red on, and then when I put the purple on, I think, oh no, it's gone a funny colour. But once you get the last coat on, the yellow, you'll find it comes out great. Well, I find it comes out great. You might not like the colour. In which case, look at a colour wheel, and if it's too red, look to the opposite colour of the red and put a layer of that on. And, you know, vice versa. If it's too yellow, put more of the opposite colour to the yellow one. There we are. And then we'll do our pouncing. But not to blend, you're not blending it now, you're just getting off any excess. See, there's little spots there that need to come off. Can you see behind his ear it looks paler? I'm going to just paint some purple in there with my brush and pat it off with my patter. I don't want it to look a different colour to the rest of his head. There we go. That's better, I think. Seems to be here as well. It's not quite as... So I'll do that as well. Check the other ear, which seems to be fine. So that's in with his purple layer on. That's his head at least. So I'm going to do the same thing on his arms and legs, and then I'll come back. Okay, so now onto my yellow wash. This is the last wash. Same as before, a little bit of yellow. I'm going to put a bit less in this time. I had leftovers last time. Well, I'm going to have to manage without it because I can't, that lid will not come off. I'm going to have to take the lid off, and I'm going to have to saw the lid off and put it in a different thing because I can't get it off. Never mind, we can have a bit of the glue in. Maybe a bit too much in there. Got my yellow, got my glue, get some water. Give it a mix. Yeah, that'll be perfect. So I've got my wet wipe ready, got my yellow sponge ready, got my dabber off ready, so off we go. So that's his head done. What do you think? I'm quite happy with that. Let's move this yellow out the way. Of course I need to do his eyebrows. And I need to paint his lips. And then I will put a layer of matte varnish over the whole head and body. So, and I'll do the matte varnish the same as I've done the other layer, the layers of paint. I'll water it down a little bit, and I will pounce it on and off like I've done. Yeah, I think he's come out really well. Give him some eyelashes and little faint eyebrows. Paint his lips, and that'll be him done. Apart from, like I say, I am going to do a matte. I think I'm going to do a matte varnish. I'll see how he dries and then I'll decide whether I'm going to do a matte varnish on him or not. But yeah, I'm really pleased with that. It's come out really well. So that's his head done. The next thing I'm going to do is his arms and legs, exactly the same. Pounce on the yellow and pounce it off again. And then I shall do his lips and eyelashes and he'll be finished. So I'll come back when I'm putting on his eyelashes and painting his lips. Okay, so I'm on to the finishing touches. I've painted his lips with my mixed up lip colour. That took a lot of mixing, but I did save it. I did save it in a tub so that I've got it for next time. So now what I need to do is put his eyelashes on. If you wanted to, you could do him with matte varnish. I use I don't think he needs any varnish, to be honest. I use this Mod Podge matte, and what I do is water it down a little bit and dab it on like I do the paint. But he's got a bit of a texture to him. Yeah, you can see I've drawn him on some very faint eyebrows. I didn't want great dark ones. I'm leaving him bald because I love the shape of his head and the little bits you can see in his head. I love his veining and that creasing at the back there. So I'm going to try eyelashes on him, but I'm not 100% sure whether I'm actually going to go ahead and glue them on. So let's just lay them on and see what we think. Oh, I actually think I prefer them without. What do you think? I mean, if I decide I want to glue them on later, I can do, but yeah, it's just not, it looks so unnatural, doesn't it? I don't like it, so I'm not going to put him any eyelashes on. I think what I will do though is do him a darker line so that it looks like his eyelashes are just coming through. So I'll get my a pencil, a brown one, this sort of colour, like a peachy brown. I'm going to make sure it's really sharp. There we go. And I'm just going to draw along the crease of his eyes there, so it looks like his eyelashes are just sort of coming through. That looks more realistic, I think, than actually gluing on eyelashes. That's just my opinion, but yeah, I actually do like that better than... There we are. So it looks like it's just got sort of tiny little eyelashes. That's my opinion. And then I will put some clear Liquitex high gloss varnish on his lips. I'm going to get my high gloss varnish. I'm just going to do inside his... Oh, let's do his lips first because it's dripping all over. I've got too much on there. I'm going to do his lips. And I'm going to do inside his nose. that looks wet in there. And then I'm going to dab off this excess varnish here. There we are. So his head is actually done and ready to be left to dry now. So I'm going to leave his head like that to dry. And then I'm going to use this, it's the same as E6000, but they call it B7000 for some reason. I don't know. So I'm going to use that to insert the magnet into his mouth and also onto his dummy. This is going to be his passy. Apple of my eye, it says. So I'm going to cut off the teat. And then I've cut out these little circles with that around them so that it's easier to stick it stick the magnet into place. So I'm going to put some of this glue. This glue doesn't dry instantly, so it gives you the chance to sort of position it. And I'm going to use that material to sort of position it inside his mouth. I should have done this before I painted his mouth really, but before I put the thing on his mouth, never mind. Although the next thing we need to do is glue the magnet onto the dummy. So squeeze your glue around. Make sure you've got your magnet the right way. So I know mine needs to go like that. And then I'm just going to cover it with a bit of cloth. Like I said, I cut out these circles, and I cut out a few at a time, and then I can position the magnet where I want it and hold it in place with this, and also it stops the magnet being right next to the paint of the baby. Next I have my very sharp white watercolour pencil. I'm going to put a tiny spot of water on here. This is just a yoghurt pot lid. I save all these kinds of lids because they're great for palettes and you can wipe them and reuse them. So I've got my very, very sharp white watercolour pencil, Faber-Castell, that's what it is. And I'm going to just dip it, the end in the water, and I'm going to draw the... I know not everybody likes this French manicured look on baby's nails, but I actually like it, so I'm going to do his like that. Not ultra white, I'm just doing like a little bit of lighter on the end to show that the nails have like grown a bit. You can see I haven't gone mad, I haven't made them ultra white, but I've just put a little bit of white on the end there, just so you can see that they've grown a tiny bit. Same for his little toes. Okay, so I'm finished with my water, and I can use that same lid to do my fingernails. So for that I'm going to use my high gloss varnish. Literally just need a couple of spots, and I'm going to put a teeny tiny bit of colour in that. Let me find my fingernail painting brush out. Here, we'll use this one. Literally just touched the brush to the red and mixed it in there. And then I'm just going to paint over the nails with it. There we go. So that's all finished now. The only thing I have to do now is put him together and weight him. So I need to hold on until that's dried. Hold on until his varnish has dried. So the next time you see him, he will be it will be his blanket reveal. I will get him weighted and fixed to his body, put him all together, and then, as I say, I will do his blanket reveal. Hope you enjoyed that and learned something from it. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.